All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Another Bourbon Show. And tonight we're drinking another drink provided by our dear friend Ryan, with the fresh, clean, new haircut. Look great, Ryan. Love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Looking sharp, looking suave as ever. So tell us about the drink we're drinking tonight, because it's Whisky Dick's, which is probably the least clever name for a whiskey ever.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's really, really, really unoriginal.
Yeah. I know the founder's name is Dick. So that's part of it. That's Dick right there. I've never met him. I know he's born in the 40s. He's an older dude. Apparently the recipe comes from his dad. That was, it says rooted in 1913. I read online, I think the recipe is from 1890. Who knows if that's real? Because from what we figured out on the bottle, it's most likely a MGP sourced product. And we've had a lot of those. I mean, it's good whiskey. Usually across the board, you'll get those similar notes. But I have a family member who's involved in this. I think there's like 200 investors or something. The production's pretty low. It's really only found in select stores in Chicago. Not much distribution, but yeah, I know my second cousin's an investor, so he gave us pretty much half a bottle. So all gone now from the samples I sent to you guys, but yeah, I'm guessing it's gonna taste like an MGP product.
Most likely will. And it, on the show, we don't knock something because it's sourced. I don't think we ever have, but I do kind of think it's until they can, until they can prove that they it's really like the recipe is actually based on Whisky Dick's grandpa from 1913 or 1870 or whatever the fuck it is. That's the part I have an issue with, right? Like
I'd prefer it to be like the Total Wines multiple labels where they call it like, Brown Liberty or whatever, and they, just rebrand, and it's like a Barton distillery. That's more, it's less misleading that way.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, there is the chance that we are incorrect. That is a possibility, but it's really unlikely. It's super
there's a possibility that Brown Liberty that I just came up with. There's a possibility that's like a sex position on Urban Dictionary, but we don't know.
But we don't know. Yeah, we don't know. Do you know the proof on this?
It is 47% alcohol, 94 proof.
94 proof. Okay.
And it is a wheated bourbon.
Okay.
So
I'm having more and more issues the more we're talking about it.
What else? What's wrong?
Okay, so it's a wheated bourbon. And look at the way they spelled whiskey.
I know.
So
No-E.
Which No-E is a Scottish style. So they're just fucking all over the place on this fucking bottle.
Well, his dad was Scottish.
Oh, and
so therefore everything he does is Scottish style, Dan. Come on.
Good point. Good point. And the corn being so abundant in Scotland, and the wheat, which actually is not uncommon. But yeah, I'm just having more and more issues. Let's change this.
I mean, I know,
how to piss off Dan in 3 easy steps.
They talk about like prohibition and everything like that too. So maybe it's an ode to, was whiskey maybe spelled like this back 100 years ago during the prohibition in America?
Who can say?
If it was Scottish in origin, yes.
Who knows?
If it was Irish in origin, no.
It's disputed among scholars to this day.
To this day. Oh my god.
They do have some cool looking wintertime gift sets. Dick in a box, or Dicks in a box, I think it was called. So they actually look pretty nice. So if you're online.
And they have a cider called Low Hanging Fruit, if you want to check that out.
You know, the problem is, I don't know if you're being honest right now or not, Stephen, because they might. So, okay, well, let's move along to let's get Stephen's verdict here on the bottle.
So I think the label, the first thing that strikes me right off the bat is how beige it is. And it kind of reminds me of there's like three different things. It's either like a country club, like a golf course country club type sign, or it's like an antique mall, maybe, like some rural antique mall, or it kind of looks like the old country buffet, like aesthetic. If you guys remember coming across an old country buffet,
OCB.
OCB, which I think the last time I was in an old country buffet, I could be wrong. I think I was with Ryan. Did you and I go to an old country buffet one time?
I don't think so.
I feel like I want to say we did.
Are you sure it wasn't the Golden Corral in Collinsville?
Oh, it could have been the Golden Corral.
That
Yeah,
is
I'm
now
not sure about
closed,
that.
by the way.
Oh, really?
That is closed. They did not make it through COVID.
We did our part that day. I think we put them more in the red on that day. But yeah, I think it's just kind of a. I'll say that they went a little further than just having a straight up plain label. I like that they went with a different shape. It's not just a rectangle. It's sort of a badge look. It's almost like a WWE belt kind of look. But the W is like kind of the most interesting thing because other than the beige and the old white guy, which I always am a big uh, opponent of, I think that the the font itself is probably their coolest choice, and that's even not that interesting. That said, I think all of it together still looks decent. It's better than I expected based on the name. I'll give it that. But ultimately, it kind of looks like a Cracker Barrel product or something like that. So I'm going to give it a 6. I think it's right there about average, but I'm still giving it a slightly favorable rating because I do think that it punches slightly above its own name. So
Yeah, I mean, being a Chicago product, you could have found some clever prohibition type name as an homage to that. And probably getting the guy off the bottle would be good. Looks like a nice guy, but he's not the best looking guy. He kind of looks like Fred Minnick in 30.
Off the label.
He kind of looks like Fred Minnick in 30 years. Who switched to a bow tie.
yeah,
He's wearing a bow tie in that. But I do like the color of the bottle too, and that W is pretty cool, like you said.
No, it's not. That W
I like
is
it.
shit. That W is whoever created that W they're just as creative as whoever came up with the label or the name of the bourbon. Whiskey Dicks. It's just as creative. Somebody typed a W in Wingding's font style and then switched the font on the rest of the words.
I think that it's like I said, I think that is probably like the most interesting aspect, like the font that they chose. But even that, I don't think is like that great. But I do think that it stands out. You're just like, oh, it's not a good label though. Whenever you're like, oh, that's kind of a slightly interesting W.
Yeah.
Hey, it's got a great nose.
According to the website, it's the aroma is cream and vanilla. That's really all it says. Fruit, cream, vanilla.
I think the nose is great, honestly.
And I actually think that they're pretty spot on with that. I think I get a lot of, I could say cream, vanilla is fine, and then some raspberry. I think is one of like the prominent fruits that I pick up.
Yeah, I just drank a cream soda like an hour ago. Some Spreckers that I bought over the weekend, and kind of reminds me of that nose too.
Well, it's still on your upper lip.
That's a good point, dude.
This actually smells a lot like Rossville Union rye to me. Like just the nose. I know it's not a rye. We don't even know 100% that this is an MGP product. But let's be honest, it's an MGP product. But just the nose, it's got some spice to it, like a little bit of a bite to the nose. And maybe it's because I'm staring at my Rossville Union bottle right there. But I think the nose is Great though.
I'm gonna give it a
Yeah.
try. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Spicy.
Very spicy. Like a crisp, peppery spice
Yeah.
with a nice long finish for being 94 proof.
It feels higher.
It does.
And it feels like it's got rye in it.
I wish
There's no rye.
I looked for the mash bill online. Maybe I just didn't look hard enough. I mean, I looked at the bottle and a few websites too. All I know it's a wheated bourbon. Not getting the mash bill anywhere.
Okay. That wouldn't, or, I mean, I'm not going to take anything at face value off these motherfuckers, but typically when something says it's a wheated bourbon, they just replace the rye with wheat. So it would be corn, wheat, and barley with no rye. But this tastes like it's got rye in it to me.
I agree.
And I would say that maybe it's young.
Yeah.
Except for that it doesn't have like, so a lot of times when a whiskey or a bourbon is young, it has a spice to it, right? Because the oak of the barrel hasn't had a chance to do its thing yet. But it doesn't have like that green apple young flavor to it. Yes, it tastes young, but not so young that it would have spice to it. Anyway.
Yeah. I think my first reaction is I agree with everything that's being said. And I was like, I would buy this and put this in cocktails. I think like, an old fashioned would be really good with this because I would compare it to something like Evan Williams or something like that I would use.
Yeah.
How much is a bottle of this?
This retails, I believe find it between like $45 and $55 price range. So it's a little higher, but knowing it's a small company with limited production, I imagine that's why the price is a little high.
Okay.
Which, I mean, pretty much the same after taxes and stuff. Similar in price to a bottle of Blanton's, if you find it retail.
Which you don't.
Price. Yeah.
Which you don't.
When I was in Kentucky, there was I saw this. There's a Facebook page that'll tell you, what Buffalo Trace
has today.
Yeah, what Buffalo Trace has today. And there was like the first day we got there, I think it was a Blanton's day, and people posted pictures of like the the line out the door. And I was like, no thanks, nope. And then there was days where they would show it and it would be, an Eagle Rare or a Weller day, and it would be the same line.
Yeah.
And basically the rotation is they would have Weller, Special Reserve, they would have Eagle Rare, Blanton's, or if you were really lucky, Sazerac Rye. and that was, what you had to look forward to. So it's like people show up, they get their lawn chairs out at 5, 6 a.m., get there before the sun rises, and then you find out a couple hours later if you're going to get 3 bottom shelf things or Blanton's, So it just seemed like a depressing endeavor, and I just spent my time doing other things, like getting
Good
this.
For you.
Getting this.
I was gonna mention that. Matter of fact, I was gonna mention it when you said the white guy on the label. I was like, yeah, but your shirt's got a white dude on it.
Yeah, but you can abstract it. Yeah, if you do something like this, it's cool. Also, it's balanced out.
Also got a Japanese
by
dude,
a Japanese dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it does even out. It does for sure. But yeah, very cool shirt. Good choice. Now I do not understand the people that go waiting in line at Buffalo Trace. Doesn't make a goddamn bit of sense to me. Because like if like you don't have to wait in that line, right? Like you don't have to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning. You can come strolling through at like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and typically, at least it used to be, even 6 months ago, there was no line by 11 o'clock in the morning. And on a Blanton's day, they literally have a fucking pallet. And it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to do Blanton's twice per week.
Yeah.
So, like, that line doesn't make any damn sense to me. Now, the one that does make sense to me is Heaven Hill. Because if you get to Heaven Hill at like 4 o'clock in the morning and you're one of the first 10 people in line, you can pretty much guarantee that you are getting something really fucking special. Because they might put out 2 bottles of Old Fitzgerald, 2 bottles of other, like Heaven Hill 27, or a Heaven Hill 17, or a William Heaven Hill. And they're going to have, like, they're not going to have 10 of each. But since you're limited to buy one, you're going to be able to get something that's truly, legitimately, like, BTAC level, Pappy level, if you're one of the first 10. After that, you're getting grenades of Elijah Craig and maybe a Larceny Barrel Proof, which is really good. But anyway. Well, what do you say we go ahead and rate this?
I feel like I've hardly drank any of it.
I did.
You finished it?
Almost.
There was a lot less in that vial, I feel like.
It's okay. I've had
I go
enough
first.
To rank it. Okay.
I go first.
Go.
Just I do like what Steven said based on how they described it, the vanilla and the cream on the nose. And the more I drank this, the more, I got more of that as I drank it, and the spice kind of, I won't say fizzled away, but I started getting those sweeter notes the more I drank this, which was cool. The first sip I had, there was so much spice, almost kicked me in the face with all that black pepper. And then there were some of those stone fruits I think one of you guys mentioned. But yeah, going into it, I've had this 1 or 2 times before after a few drinks, and I wasn't sure because you have so much whiskey in one night where you try something, you can't taste anything once you're already drunk. And unfortunately, I was at that place the few times I've had this where I'm like, I honestly can't give it a rating because I don't know how it is.
That's how I see it most of the time.
Yeah. Seeing the bottle with the old guy on it and everything like that, I was a little worried that this wasn't going to be very good, but I was pleasantly surprised. If there is rye in it, which we probably assume there is just based on that pepperiness of it, along with the sweetness that wheat brings, I thought it was pretty solid. We think it's an MGP product. It probably is, unless there's some local person in Bloomington, Indiana, that's doing something. But I'm going to go 7.2. I thought it was good. The sweetness was good. There's a lot of things they can fine tune to make this a better product. I'd probably switch the name, or if you keep it, actually spell whiskey right. Get the old man off the label. The cork's fine. It's synthetic. It looks nice, but those are all cosmetic things. The juice is really good, and it's better than I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to go 7.2.
I liked when you were I feel like every time you've talked about your feelings towards this, Ryan, you've included, whether it's the taste or anything, you've included like, get the old guy off the label. It reminds me of in Shaun of the Dead, whenever like every plan he has in every scenario he can imagine, like it always starts with killing his stepdad. Like he's like, we'll kill my stepdad and then we'll do this or whatever. It's like every scenario, it's like his stepdad definitely has to be killed. They'll kill him and then they'll take his mom and head out.
Yeah.
I echo pretty much exactly what you're saying. I feel pretty much the exact same way. I was pleasantly surprised by this. It still comes in a little bit lower for me. I'm going to give it a 6.8. I think that it's right there on the precipice of something I would drink pretty regularly. I think that's my 7s and up. is something that I would either drink like pretty regularly or as regularly as I could, depending on how difficult to find that bottle is. But I think this falls just outside of it because it is a touch too hot. If I was going to guess the mash bill of this, I would say it's like 51% corn, 48% rye, and then 1% wheat if it's a wheated bourbon. That'd be my guess. But I think that it's really, really a spicy guy to drink most of the time. You need to know that going in. And for something that calls itself a wheated bourbon, I think a lot of people would be put off by the flavor that they would get from this. So I think it's important that you know what it is and what it's offering going in, because I can see a lot of people having a negative experience with this. And I also think that the price point itself, in my opinion, is not quite justified this high. You're paying that craft tax, but ultimately, I feel how I did earlier when I compared it to like an Evan Williams white label, where that's something that's like a fourth, a fifth of the price. Granted, a much bigger distillery is making it, but I would use it for the same purposes. So to me, it's tough to justify this purchase based on how I ultimately feel about it. That's why it's falling in the sixes for me, but a 6.8.
Yeah, and so like about halfway through the glass tonight, I had settled on a 6.7, and that's where I stayed throughout the night. Um, and so I would probably be up in the like closer to you, Ryan, 7.1, 7.2 era, if I was just focusing purely on the taste. I think it's got a good flavor to it. I enjoyed drinking it. I echo what you said as far as that first glass or that first sip being just like so spicy with pepper, and then that giving way as you sip it to more of those cream and vanillas. It's not complex. It's not a complex whiskey at all, but it did get sweeter after I had a couple sips. But the reason I'm knocking it down from a 7.1 or a 7.2 down to a 6.7 is purely because of the price. I don't think it's worth anything near $45, $50. It's just not a $45 or a $50 bottle to me. Drinking it for free, I really enjoyed it. But if I had paid $45 or $50 for it right now, I would be really pissed at myself, because there are so many bottles out there on the shelf that are so much better for that $45 or $50. So yeah, I give it a 6.7. But I do think I was very pleasantly surprised, and yeah, get the white, and the 6.7 doesn't reflect this, but it does really annoy the fuck out of me. All of those things I said before we tasted it, the wheated bourbon, spelling it without an E, like that just all pisses me off. But that's not reflected in the 6.7. The 6.7 is strictly based on the flavor versus the price. So 6.7 for me.
Yeah, they're, like I said, a newer, distillery. Not that they're distilling it themselves, but they can fine tune some things and make this product better. And I get it. You're probably dedicated to the name now at this point, now that you've produced the bottles and sold them. But yeah, you got to get the guy off the label.
It's such a dumb. It's a dumb name. It's a dumb name. You go to search Whisky Dicks, and how many restaurants? If you Google search Whisky Dicks, like 50 restaurants pop up, and you don't see this whiskey at all. And no.
Well,
Sorry.
How does it make you guys feel if I tell you that their little tagline that they have is just hard enough? That's really what's on the website.
Are you serious?
Yeah. You see what I'm talking about, Ryan? Because it looked like you were reading this as well. But yeah, it says barrel-aged wheated bourbon, just hard enough.
And there's a little story on it, though, but I don't understand where they came up with this either. It's call it old number 6 if you like. Jack's what, old number 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just hard enough right there. So I don't know where this old number 6 came from or why, because there's nothing in the description
It tells you on the website as well. It says the Whiskey Dick's bottle in your hand is a gift from Dick and Mary's 5 children. Enjoy Dick's whiskey. Call it Old Number 6 if you like. I guess it's.
Oh,
just,
is it like the 6th child?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is just getting more and more disgusting.
Another brother showing